Thank you.
Right.
Are you suggesting that someone's trying to make a real-life sequel?
Stab 2? Who'd want to do that? Sequels suck.
2 in the box!
Ready to go.
We be fast and
They be slow.
Wow.
General, would you care to step outside?
Superman!
A second Super Saiyan? Second in order, perhaps, but by no means in stature. Your fight is with me now.
And when I kill you, I will have killed the last Jedi!
Oh, please. Please. By definition alone, they're inferior films.
So sour.
You hear us crying because we are drinking and talking film. Oh, you're probably wondering what you're listening to, and that is Inside the Sequel with your host, Cris. You know what this is. This is the show where we talk about the sequels that don't get enough love, should get enough love, and we recommend you buy, whether it's with a drink or not. Last episode, if you remember, we had Nathan Jones from YouTube.
Sorry, everyone. I don't know who that was. I don't know why they even were in my house. But my name is Nathan Jones. If you're new here, I like to talk about all things movies, and specifically Blu-rays.
He and I were talking about Shrek 2, one of the best sequels of the last 20 years. But today, we're talking about a different year, specifically 2049. And with me to tackle this is one of the most expensive guests I've ever had on here. And what I mean by that is, he's like one of those mentors on Instagram where you have to direct message him for his services. I had to do this with this guy, so hopefully the money was well spent. I'm here with my best bud, Seth.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Instagram handle money for the baby.
Oh! That's right.
That's right. That's right.
Well, Seth, you were last on a podcast with Daniel at Cobwebs.
Yeah, I'm Daniel. I've been on the channel a few times, so you might have seen me. I'm the host of the Cobwebs podcast, where we talk about gothic movies, but we also just talk about old movies in general. And
which was a great episode. You were on 2 of them. No, you were maybe on 3 of them. You're actually kind of popular, goddamn.
I like anime and Disney Channel original movies. That's why.
And you watched some Del Toro films
And Del
too.
Toro, that was a good Devil's Backbone.
Yes, that was such a good episode. It was Daniel and him talking about the Devil's Backbone. And then Daniel and him teamed up again to talk about the monsters, the video. Put some respect on these Disney Channel original movies. I forgot.
We talked about Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire. Okay, it's a classic. Starring one of the aunts from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Absolutely.
Lovely lady.
Absolutely.
And then we talked about Phantom of the Megaplex, which is actually still, like, it holds up, okay? It's cheesy, but it holds up, okay? Don't sleep on that, but I will champion Halloween Town.
Yeah.
Is the best Disney Channel original movie.
But
okay?
what's the best movie about being Irish, though?
Luck of the Irish, son. Okay, that's up there. That might be one of the best as well. And don't forget Brink, okay?
Brink.
That's Skate Life.
This boy knows everything about the Disney Channel original. He was on the ground floor.
That's right.
For all those on Twitter who think they have that clout. You don't want this smoke from Seth.
You remember Xenon? Did you ever watch Xenon?
I've only seen like covers of that. I've actually never seen it though.
What is his name? Nova or Supernova? There's a pop star and he sings a song.
I thought it was Nova. Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Make my heart go zoom, zoom.
Dude, I was too busy playing Final Fantasy X too with Yuna singing, "What can I do for you?"
Oh, yeah.
Anyway. But then you were in another episode where you talked about vampire anime.
Vampire Hunter D. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Big D, for
Big
sure.
D.
Yeah, but you know what? We're here today to talk about a very personal film for Seth. Mm-hmm. And this was an interesting one for me. Is Denis Villeneuve?
Villeneuve. I feel criminal to pronounce that wrong.
French-Canadian. But yeah,
amazing director.
We're talking about his 2017 release, Blade Runner 2049.
There is an order to things. That's what we do here. We keep order. The world is built on a wall that separates kind. Tell either side there's no wall, you bought a war.
Now, before we get into that, Seth, maybe people haven't checked out those podcast episodes, which I recommend, but tell them about your background with film, because yours is, like, really cool.
I like movies. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, no. I graduated from a film program in Missouri, and I make most of my income by filming weddings and events, and I do contracting work.
Yes, sir.
Anything revolving around a camera, specifically in motion. I love video.
Yes, sir.
Editing. I mean, it's been what I base my career around. I'm a sucker for dystopian sci-fi. Let me just put it that way.
Yes.
So I want to dive into Blade Runner, but certificate in screenwriting also. I mean,
This
sure.
guy actually did a short film in college where he tried to make it a practical effect.
Oh, we don't
monster
talk
movie.
about that.
I think it's kind of impressive. He showed me some footage and it looks pretty sweet. If only it could got finished. Where's the production companies putting money into this?
It's a little unfinished. You know, if you guys want to fund me, we can start an Indiegogo. Okay?
That's right. You put that in the account with my OnlyFans page as well.
Yeah.
It's basically me shirtless with my cat and we talk about Blu-ray reviews.
Premium, yeah.
Yes.
It's premium.
Yes. But Seth, what is your opinion on sequels? I don't think I've ever asked you this, but what is your thought on sequels?
It depends, because there's different kind of sequels. I think there's comedy sequels, there's franchise sequels, there's reboot sequels like the new Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
I don't hate them like some people do. I think there's nothing wrong with them. I think most of the time they're not as good as the original. But sometimes you just want to be in the same universe with the same characters for a second or third time. I don't have no beef with them. I think most of the time comedy sequels can falter a little bit, but when it comes to things like what we're going to talk about today, I think the sequel carries on the world successfully. So I love sequels for the fact that it carries on something I love.
Yes, that's what we need, more kind of like thoughts when we go into sequels. I feel like giving them chances instead of writing them off as, oh, well, John Carpenter didn't do this sequel, so it can't be as good as the original. You know what I mean? When we talk about like Halloween movies, The Thing remakes, things like that. Like I feel like you got to give people chances. You know what I mean?
And horror sequels are also different because, I mean, how many Halloween movies do we have? How many Scream movies do we have? Nightmare on Elm Street. I think horror franchises are just, there's diamonds in the rough you don't even know about.
Yeah.
I think I love, like, that's almost franchise films too, franchise horror. And I also enjoy that because there's so much fun to be had and so many different visions for these characters.
And one thing you did mention I really like, and I can't wait to talk about in this podcast, not today, but in later episodes, installments, are remakes. Remakes I consider sequels because they're coming from an original source, which is the original movie, and making changes to it and updating it. And I haven't seen it yet, but I know you talked about it. You recommend it all the time. It's like the new Evil Dead.
I released something from that book. Something evil. This thing is attached to Mia's soul. We're gonna have to kill her.
You're all going to die tonight.
Remake.
So good. Okay, Fede Alvarez. He is an emerging horror director. He also did Don't Breathe, which was fantastic. Jane Levy movie, and it's so good. The gore is amped to 1,000,000. Sam Raimi's stamp of approval. I love Jane Levy in it. She is a rock star. I mean, I cannot, just the practical effects, I cannot tell you to watch it like enough. It is so good. So much fun.
Right. So if like this is somebody who's seen a remake and he loves the Evil Dead franchise collectively as a
Favorite
whole.
horror franchise, probably.
Yeah. He loves it, and like he even gives its props to the remake. I don't know what the critical reception or any of that is for that, but I don't hear too many people talk about the Evil Dead remake when they talk about Evil Dead.
It's pretty positive, too.
Usually it's like Army of Darkness and that's it,
Right. In the show.
Yeah, in the show. Yeah.
Really good.
So, okay, but what is your opinion on Blade Runner? How did you get into that? Because that's what we're talking about today.
Blade Runner.
Because it is your favorite film.
Yes. Of all time.
It's funny. His favorite movie is Blade Runner, which was an 82 film. And then my favorite movie is Alien from 79, both Ridley Scott sci-fi films.
I mean, Ridley, say what you want about him. He's done great stuff. He's done mediocre stuff. But at the end of the day, this boy is a legend. He is a legend. Blade Runner, I originally saw when I was in high school at the time. And the first time I watched it, I think like a lot of people, I didn't love it. I thought it was really cool looking. I don't consider myself someone that like loved films while I was in high school as much as I do now, but I watched it again a little bit later, and it captured my attention. And I wanted to watch it again, and I wanted to watch it again, and I just told myself, like, I love this movie now. I want to dissect it. I love the atmosphere. I love the characters. I love the performances. I mean, Ridley Scott, I mean, everything together. I mean, I could be a douchebag and say it has amazing mise-en-scène, which it does. It's a masterwork in that, and just the practical effects were ahead of their time, beyond ahead of their time. It still looks amazing today. Roy is one of the most sympathetic villains, I think, in cinema. Personally, love it.
Yeah. Dude, you love Blade Runner. I guess you could say your cells are interlinked.
Cells interlinked.
That's right. Every time we say something interlinked, we have to take a drink, and we're already drinking to begin with.
I've already had a little bit.
What's it like to hold the hand of someone you love? Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Did they teach you how to feel finger to finger? Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Do you long for having your heart interlinked? Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Do you dream about being interlinked?
Interlinked.
What's it like to hold your child in your arms? Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Do you feel that there's a part of you that's missing? Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Within cells interlinked.
Within cells interlinked.
Why don't you say that 3 times? Within cells interlinked.
Within cells interlinked. Within cells interlinked. Within cells interlinked.
We're done.
He's drinking a whiskey sour that's a little too sour.
Oh, man.
Meanwhile, I'm drinking a Tall Boy Natty Light Seltzer Catalina Lime.
I'm drinking, pardon my horrible Italian accent, Bussia di Limone.
With the liqueur.
Limoncello liqueur with some whiskey. A little bit of sugar in there. It is very sour. Very sour. It's really good.
I knew I wanted to do Blade Runner 2049 at some point because it's such a decisive one for me. But at the same time, we did Alien Covenant as the second episode, and I rewatched Prometheus and Alien Covenant, both Ridley Scott films. And I remember texting Seth during both time of those movies. I'm like, what the hell was wrong with me with watching these movies the first time? And then also, why is Ridley Scott such a fucking genius? I'm not even saying like if the movies are good or bad, but I'm saying like just him as a director and the works he's tackled throughout his career, he's such a genius. He is devoted to his works. He pays attention to detail. No matter what, they always look beautiful. They always look gorgeous, and he is dedicated to the lore. You listen to his commentaries, and he truly loves what he makes.
He's a perfectionist, sometimes to a fault, but he is, And
it's like sometimes I'm like, Ridley, I wish you like dropped off the Alien franchise and gave it to like Neil Blomkamp, but which we'll unfortunately never get. Or you know, like just like leave the pavement for someone else to tackle. But I mean, like he did with Blade Runner, he gave it to Denny. He gave it his his signal of approval. And at first I wasn't crazy. We'll get into that, but it's a really great masterwork. And I don't know if Ridley Scott could have maybe done as good as Denny did do.
I mean, I think Denny is a different voice. I think maybe Ridley is a little bit more pessimistic as a person, so I don't think he wanted to do a sequel. I think he told his story. He was very satisfied with it. He didn't want to ruin his reputation or even risk it. And I think he knew Denny was just a genius in sci-fi.
And when we watched this movie, Arrival came before Blade Runner, correct? Was it 2017 was Blade Runner?
Yeah.
And Arrival I thought was 2016? Or was it 2018?
No, it's before 2049.
Because I kept thinking they looked similar in style, and they're both obviously Denny films.
Different cinematographers, though.
Yeah, for sure. Here's my next thing. So we're talking about Ridley Scott. We're talking about your history with Blade Runner. You love it because, again, Ridley Scott and you interlinked. Drink again. But
just did.
But here's the thing. What about Denny? Two different directors, but man, when you look at the beginnings of their careers, they're both similar in like they're making movies earlier in their career that are standing out to the competitors. So you get Ridley Scott in 79, Blade Runner in 82. He goes on and he goes on and does like Gladiator. He tackles all these other types of movies.
I mean, he's still doing well. I mean, The Martian,
right?
Big hit.
And then you think Denny, with Prisoner. Well, he's made Incendies and Pyrotechnics, which I haven't seen. But
Enemy, I know also really underrated, severely underrated.
Right, he's just making these things after the next, and I'm kind of like seeing similarities, especially when it comes to the sci-fi genre, that what Ridley Scott brought to sci-fi at the time.
I think Denny is more focused with his genre or with what he approaches. I mean, his early films like Polytechnique wouldn't be necessarily like a genre film like that, but I think Ridley kind of dabbles in different genres successfully. I mean, Gladiator. I love Gladiator.
Exodus, Gods and Kings.
Not so much, right? I saw that in theaters. Not so much.
Yep.
It's a great looking movie.
It is
really
gorgeous.
great looking movie. But Denny definitely has more of a focus. But when it comes to the sci-fi genre, they are very similar in ways.
Right. And, you know, honestly, I was late to the party with Denny. I know you and I and our friends, we always we pretend to gatekeep. We don't really gatekeep unless it's something personal. We know not to cross that boundary. But when it comes to pretend gatekeeping, it's always when we talk about Denny, it becomes a fun conversation, especially with you three older boys, Daniel, Nathan from YouTube, and you, Seth. But when it comes to me, I'm the young boy. I wasn't there when Denny started, and I literally just binged through 4 of his works in a weekend. Because I finally wanted to be a part of it, and I was just blown away, and I was embarrassed it took me so long. So I'm really crazy about him. But now, in 2049's Blade Runner, when I went to go see it the first time, I was in college still. I went opening night with Daniel, and I was super excited because Blade Runner, again, was one of my favorite movies. I was late to the party on that as well. I didn't see it till my freshman year of college. And I absolutely enjoyed it. I mean, I'm a big Ridley Scott apologist. I love most of his stuff, even if it's not good. But the thing is, Blade Runner 2049, I had the most unrealistic expectations for because I just wanted it. I wanted it to be amazing. I wanted it to be like what Blade Runner was at the time. I remember even thinking in the theater, I'm like, I'm about to see my generation's Blade Runner. And I didn't feel that at first. And you were different. And I want to talk about that. Where were you?
I was gonna throw in maybe Dune is gonna be this generation's Blade Runner.
Well, we didn't know Dune was coming out.
Right. I mean, I am a Dune fan, so
yes.
I am unbelievably excited for that movie. Let me just say, it's my number 1 most anticipated movie.
Yes, sir.
Period.
Yes, sir.
Period.
Yep.
But yeah, Blade Runner. What was the question? What do I think about it?
Where were you when Blade Runner 2049 came out? Cells interlinked.
Interlinked.
So take a drink, okay. Cells interlinked. I'm gonna fail his baseline after a few more drinks.
It's been way off.
Okay, I saw it in IMAX opening night.
Wow.
I bought the tickets far in advance. I went by myself, which I will say there's nothing wrong with going to IMAX to see a film you're a fan of or
course.
a franchise by yourself, okay? Which is ironic because when I walked out, there's 7 guys I knew from college there. I was like, hey guys, did you like the movie? Like, yeah. I'm like, cool. I went to the bathroom and dipped. But I got a perfect seat by myself at the IMAX, and I was just blown away. After the credits rolled, I think I sat in my chair for 5 minutes decompressing what happened. I mean, I don't know if we spoil the movies on this podcast. We don't, right?
We can just talk about it. If you haven't, you got to see when we talk about them, you got to see these movies, and these are the things that we want to reel you into. Now, if it's a major spoiler, let's say it's we're talking about Knives Out, I'm not going to spoil Knives Out.
Right.
But I mean, it's Blade Runner 2049. You can watch the movie and still enjoy it.
Sure. I mean, I won't spoil it. I'm just the ending. There's a powerful ending. It comes full circle with a callback from the original Blade Runner.
Right. We'll put a timestamp on that.
Sure.
But let's not. We won't talk about the spoiler yet. But let's just talk about more your decompressing of thoughts there.
And once upon first watch, and once I kind of decompressed what I saw, I mean, I felt blown away. Next day, I went to work texting the boys yo, this is top 10 movie for me right now. Number 1 of the year. I'm sorry, but that's my decision. And I may have been biased going into it, but I also feel that bias could have also turned south if I was disappointed with the movie because I wanted it to be very, very, very good. But it just hit all the check marks for me as far as what kind of movie I like. And I love dystopian sci-fi. It's one of my favorite genres. I always say that. I love it kind of dirty, kind of sad, with this roaring synthetic score and neon-soaked visuals, just everything. So I enjoyed it. I really, really did.
See, when Seth went to see it, I was with Daniel. We were at a B&B. We didn't get to see it on the big screen, but we had really great seats for it. I really was hoping it would continue off Decker and everything, but it didn't do that at all. At first, for me, at an initial watch, it was really long too. It's clocked in at 2 hours and 47 Excuse me, 2 hours and 40.
Cells interlinked. Cells interlinked.
There it is.
Drink.
Cells interlinked. It's at 2 hours and 49 minutes. Ironic, 2049, but it's at 2 hours and 49 minutes. I believe.
I've never noticed that. Really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
it's longer.
I've seen this movie like 5 times, 6 times.
He has it on Blu-ray, on 4K.
4K, thank you.
4K.
I own the original 4 times.
Yeah, how many? Yeah, he has 2 copies of Blade Runner right now.
Well, I have a 4K. I have a collector's anniversary edition with all the cuts. Obviously, I recommend the final cut. I have the Blu-ray of it. And for some reason, I have the Blu-ray again, but I gave it to my brother, so... Oh, no, then there's the Blu-ray copy in the 4K. So I think that's 5. So...
And he has a poster and a T-shirt of it.
I do.
When's he going to retire one of them?
Oh, that's a term they use.
But when I saw it, I was like, it's a pretty movie. It looks amazing. I like that. I was just like, there was so many things going on that I could not, like... process all of them during the runtime, so we talked about when we watched it recently. Again, we were talking and watching because we'd seen it. That was like your 5th time. That was like my 3rd time watching it, and you said one thing that was like so true. Denny really takes his time with this movie in terms of camera work, story structure. He's very much taking his time. He's not being lazy. He's not just dragging and making filler. It really is methodical and sucking you in, and I felt it this time around. First watch, I did not like that. But I also didn't know what I was getting yet. I did know for sure, though, I love the opening with Batista because Batista's the fucking man.
You've never seen a miracle.
That opening is great. I feel like once you see that opening, you're like, all right, let's go. Let's do this.
I mean, that sets the tone. You have the atmosphere. You have the gravity of the situation that Kay is in, which is the protagonist, played by Ryan Gosling. I will say that the music kind of soars in the beginning, but when that scene really goes deep, the score kind of cuts out.
Oh, it's pitch black.
But it feels so heavy, and this film is heavy. It's very heavy. But that opening, I mean, you like the Batista as an actor.
Yep.
You really like him. That's why they play to that strength of, I like this guy, and I don't know if this protagonist is that likable right now.
Exactly, because he's just sitting there, and he's like, I didn't want to be rude, but I didn't want to drag in the mud and stuff like that. And it's a small little shack, and Batista,
mud I don't mind.
Yeah, it's just
unannounced visitors.
It's so good. It's such a great opening.
So great.
But if you're not familiar with Blade Runner, this world is basically it's a dystopian future. Where the Earth, it's kind of like Cowboy Bebop. Earth is like an undesirable place to live.
It's California as well.
Yeah.
it's kind of the slums.
Yeah. It's not very much like the kind of place you want to live, but people go there to like because they're either in poverty or they want to escape their past.
It's debaucherous as well.
Right. And then there's these people who work for the police called Blade Runners, and what they do is they go out and kill, which they call retiring, humanoid androids called replicants. So in this movie, Blade Runner 2049, Ryan Gosling is a Blade Runner, and Denny. I was really smart for Denny to put that prologue in the beginning explaining the Blade Runner as a callback to the original, because Deckard, played by Harrison Ford, was a Blade Runner as well, a different type of Blade Runner. 100%.
Very reluctant Blade Runner.
Yeah, he feels like Harrison Ford in a noir. Like you said, the first Blade Runner feels like a neo-noir, gritty film. This one feels more dystopian sci-fi than
It feels
noir.
more like a sci-fi epic. And it's more of a mystery. I don't think the first one is really layered with mystery.
No.
It's layered more with emotional beats about humanity, what makes us human. It focuses much more on the villains, I would say, than this one does. But it's definitely a true sequel, but it plays strengths differently. And the central mystery of the film, which I won't spoil. Right. It's very well done. So on repeat watching, even though I know the answer to the mystery, every time I see something involving like the red herrings or the clues that Agent K follows, or Officer K, it never feels like boring or been there, done that. I'm like, okay, yes, I understand this portion of it. And some things you don't really notice or understand until multiple viewings, just like the first film.
There are a lot of red herrings in here. There's in the first movie, there's not as much. You know, in the first movie, Roy is the bad guy, played by Rutger Hauer. He's out there to make a message, and Deckard has to be the one to catch him.
And he doesn't want to. He's done. He is done with killing.
Yeah.
He's done with retiring. He wants to go in his hobbit hole and drink himself into a coma and just say fuck it.
That's right. Like Blade Runner feels like a pitch black 40s noir film.
No one's happy in it.
No one
one's
is.
happy.
If Decker was in his office, he'd have a case of whiskey ready to drink it. But you got to think about it. Okay, so I think the biggest problem with Blade Runner, especially Blade Runner 2049, which I didn't notice until this latest rewatch, is you have to put yourself in this world. You have to get in the mindset of these films' world. So I don't think you can really connect in an emotional state with it, which I think is what the central point is. You have to really immerse yourself into these characters and what they feel like, especially in the sequel. And I feel like when you think of a Blade Runner, you think, oh, it's just a guy killing fake humans. But these things are state-of-the-art, bleed like humans, act like humans, look like humans, that they're basically human.
They feel like humans.
They question their own humanity, though they don't have any. And I feel like Blade Runner, the first one, tackles it in a way where they're bad and like how it could go wrong. But then like maybe if you understand them, you wouldn't want to retire them. And then in Blade Runner 2049, we already know what happens to the genocide of replicants, because if straight out tells you these new Blade Runners, Ryan Gosling, are out to kill these old remnant replicants in replacement of new replicants that aren't supposed to be like human, which is a callback to most Ridley Scott stuff. When you think about like Ash in Alien 79 being an android robot, he's evil, but then he does Alien Covenant and Prometheus with androids and they feel more humanoid, they question their humanity, David being the biggest one. So he's always tackling, I feel like, what makes us human as a theme for his movies. And I feel like that's so interesting. But in Blade Runner 2049, these new androids, you're wondering, is K an android? Is he a replicant or not? Because when he kills Batista's character, Batista goes, how does it feel to kill your own kind? And immediately Ryan Gosling goes, I wouldn't know because my kind doesn't run away.
Yep, my kind doesn't run.
What he's meaning is these older replicants are a menace because they're trying to basically assimilate to humanity where you can't tell the difference, which is already a question you should be thinking about. And then him saying, we are more updated and less likely to be renegades like you are.
Yep.
But Kay's character, played by Ryan Gosling, he doesn't have any emotions at all throughout the whole movie until some few moment scenes when things start to change. I love that. I didn't notice that the first time. I thought it was annoying. I was like, why isn't Ryan Gosling doing anything? It's 2017. He did La La Land. Why is he looking cool and happy? Instead, he's just like blank-faced.
He hasn't failed that baseline.
That's
yet.
right. Interlinked. He's like...
Cells interlinked.
Honestly, that new interlinked scene where basically it's sick. The humans test their replicants to make sure they're not be feeling like humans.
Yep.
And if they fail their test, being asked questions like, you're holding your firstborn child, how do you feel? Interlinked. If they don't answer interlinked like that,
you're holding the hands of your loved one as they die. Or,
exactly. If you
whatever.
feel any sort of a human emotion, they can read that, they will retire you.
Yep.
So it's like, it's so sad, the oppression of these replicants.
I mean, that's kind of a basic morality dissection from the Blade Runner universe, is that humans are almost the bad guys. They're the ones that are killing without emotion. They're the ones without emotion, whereas the replicants are the ones that want to live because they feel emotion. As they say in Blade Runner 2049, we are more human than human. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of what the whole world is about. I mean, that's Blade Runner, is what makes us human. Do these things deserve to have freedom? Do they deserve to have life if they don't have a soul, if they were never born from a mother and a father or had any intent with their existences? Mm-hmm. Like, do they matter? Kay doesn't believe he matters. He has no emotion. He has one purpose. That's to kill. That's to retire these replicants that he believes are renegades that assisted in a war, a very dangerous war that caused a lot of deaths. I love that morality of these films.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's just, there's so many layers to it. There's a lot of background information because these movies are based on books. My biggest thing, though, is like how gross this new future is, because it's 2049, and it looks like Ghost in the Shell. It looks like Cowboy Bebop. It's just like tall buildings with slums in between all these tall buildings, really crappy weather, and it's like people are eating artificial food. Like, let's talk about Agent K. not from Men in Black.
Right. Well, I just call him K.
Yeah, his name's Officer K, I think,
Could
technically.
call him Joe.
I wish his name was just the protagonist.
Oh, is that a callback to Tenet?
Yeah, I like that. People criticize that on Twitter.
I like that. I mean, there's a reason he's called the protagonist.
Right.
But I'm not going to spoil it here either.
No, yeah, but talking about dystopian sci-fis, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, the world is like sad to live in. Kay lives in a small little cubicle of like a house, and he has a companion played by Ana de Armas, Joy, who is an AI, artificial intelligence, and he doesn't eat. He eats artificial hologrammed food, and that's his life. And he lives to like communicate with this AI, kind of like her. From Spike Jonze. And it's just kind of sad, and it's hard to connect. I totally feel that. But this time around, when you delve into this character, if you think of him as a human, you will feel for him because it's such a lonely life with so many people out in the world then, and he's all alone.
Dance. Do you want to dance, or do you want to open your present?
What present?
This one.
What's the occasion?
Let's just say it's our anniversary.
Is it?
No, but let's just say that it is.
Well, if replicants don't have emotions, why does he need a companion to make him feel whole?
Exactly.
I mean, I think her character, I've heard a lot of criticisms for her character as she's just like a fantasy, a fulfillment for the male protagonist, which kind of is true. She's someone to fulfill him because he needs fulfillment, because it feels like he's hollow, because everyone else hates him. There's a term in the film where they call him a skin job, which is a derogatory statement towards his kind, and you can tell when someone says that to him, it hurts him a little bit. And it shouldn't hurt him if he was just a robot, but it does hurt him. So I think Joy is a really important character to stretch the idea of what makes something human. Like, just because she's code without a physical body, does she also matter? Because she matters to Kay, but Kay doesn't matter to humans. It's just stretching that idea from the first film.
Right, and his biggest excitement is getting that update for her so she can travel with him.
So she can be with him on the go. Yeah. And she does seem to care about him only, even though she is a product of what could be considered the villains of the film, the company, the Wallace Corporation. All the decisions she makes in the film involve her wanting Kay to be okay.
Yeah.
And she clearly loves him, but is that design just a design, or is there actual love there? That's for you to decide. But it's definitely designed to fulfill whoever the owner is.
Exactly. And I think that's really intelligent. I don't think most films tackle AI relationships, symbiotic relationships like that as much.
It's definitely a sci-fi trope.
Right.
But Blade Runner is definitely one of those films that really... That's what it really wants to dive into.
And that's just a part of this movie, because then later on you're introduced to the villains of the movie, which is the Wallace Corporation, which was a remnant. It feels like I feel like I'm saying the new Star Wars movies.
The First Order.
Right. But it's like they're called the Wallace Corporation, which is remnants of Tyrell. Not Tricell from Resident Evil, for my Resident Evil fans.
You said that when we were watching, and you're like, dude, is that Tricell?
Dude, so I hang out with Seth and his girlfriend Sophie, and they always play Resident Evil all the time. So when Resident Evil 5 is up, I think Tricell immediately.
It's the best video game horror franchise.
Yes.
Changed my mind.
Dude, Resident Evil? Yeah, it's definitely fucking up there for sure.
Yep.
Plans are finished, Wesker.
There's no way out this time.
Don't you two ever tire of failing in your mission? You've really become quite an inconvenience for me.
I think Final Fantasy might just have it beat, but that's on quantity. Maybe
Well, not a horror
quality.
franchise, but...
Dude, horror franchises, Nathan would say.
If I'm going franchise, if there's a Last of Us 3, I'm going with that.
Dude.
Controversial
Dude,
opinion.
inside the sequel, if Last of Us 2 was a movie, it would fucking be first episode on there.
Okay, Last of Us 2 is a masterpiece.
It is
Come
so
at
good.
me.
For my
Come at me.
people listening, if you don't like Last of Us 2, you need to just...
That is a masterwork in empathy.
Just buy it and play it.
That's right.
But so Wallace Company is controlled by the CEO, played by Jared Leto. And he is obsessed with creating life, much like the villains, I guess, of the first season. They're mentioned. They're not really villains. I think the only villainy is they create replicants.
From the first film?
Yeah.
I mean, Tyrell isn't a villain. That's what I really like about him in the first movie. he is just the creator of the replicants. He doesn't have a god complex like Wallace. He believes they are his children, because when Roy confronts him in the first film, he sees one of his children. He does care for him, but he also knows that he has to die, because if he doesn't die, then his children could become abominations. I like Wallace's character because he's almost an inverse of Tyrell. He is a monster with a god complex who wants to create a new race that can be his. It's like a Hitler, like stance almost. He wants to be this master of this race that can reproduce.
Every civilization was built off the back of a disposable workforce. But I can only make so many. Happy birthday.
I don't think it's by mistake that Denny decided to cast Jared Leto to be this cool, calm, collected creator, almost like a Steve Jobs-esque, with his cool, calm, collected, always wearing the same thing throughout every scene.
He talks very calm and sadistic almost.
And he's wearing a robe or
Right.
or a suit every single time, and he has these really clear lensed eyes. And he's obsessed with quoting almost biblical or philosophical terms to justify his creation. Talk about the fallen angel, talking about creating life, creating children, and he's just obsessed with it. And he has long hair, and he has a beard.
I mean, he's very unkept until he is, I guess. Yeah.
But I kept thinking throughout the movie, it's not by a coincidence he's a depiction of some sort of Christian Western civilization deity.
Sure.
And I think because also he has in the palm of his hands the ability to create artificial life, not only with Ana de Armas's AI life, but also the new replicant Agent K lives. And he wants to improve that even more, which they show in a very unnerving scene of what his new creation is, but it's not to his liking, so he instantly kills it.
And with that one scene, you can see terror in his creation's eyes. You see how scared she is. She is just bewildered at what is happening because she just started her existence. She has no idea what is happening. She was just born. It's almost like a fetus. She is just emerging from it, covered in this liquid, this waste. She just wants to, she's cold. She wants to be held. Jared Leto comforts her, or Wallace comforts her, lets her think everything's okay, it's going to be fine, but he is not satisfied with her. And it ends very badly.
It's a very unnerving scene, but like you said, you liked Wallace. I do. The first time I wasn't really crazy about the Wallace Corporation. Just felt like, oh, how did people even let the Wallace Corporation exist after Tyrell? Of course, if you look at Wallace and the way he just acts, I'm like, how would they let this person control basically the world economy? And
I mean, if we want to throw a Disney reference in, I mean, WALL-E, humans want things to make life easier for them.
True.
And it's all about money. So if a replicant can truly be made that will obey orders, that has incredible strength, and is very cheap, then they're going to fund it again. I mean, no questions asked.
Good point.
So that's why he's a very, very wealthy man.
Right. And Wallace is human, I would assume.
He is human.
Yeah, and he's creating artificial life to replace his own race, which is kind of scary if you think about it.
He wants to be like the new master race.
Yeah, it's scary. And we're not talking about PC master race for those listening. Pre-order that PS5.
Dude, I got my pre-order in GameStop. I am very lucky.
Yes, sir. Get that pre-order in. But I really the second time I watch, and then this now new third time, I really like Wallace's villain archetype because it fits this world. I mean, people could say he's not a good main villain because Kay and him never confront in violence, but I'm like,
I wouldn't even say he is the main villain.
No,
to be honest,
exactly.
I think this is almost a discovery film for the protagonists as well as Deckard, involving the central mystery of the plot, which I won't reveal. I mean, the main antagonist will be his replicant bodyguard.
Exactly.
And she is intimidating.
Let's talk about her, dude. But, she's nuts.
I would say Wallace is a catalyst for the events because there's a lot of world building in this film.
Oh, yeah.
And I know Denny did want to do a sequel. Sadly, the film did bomb in the box office, so we won't get that sequel. But there's an uprising of replicants, and there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes. But yeah, the central antagonist would be his own replicant who believes she is the best replicant.
Yes.
She even has a line that says, I am the best one.
And she models to Wallace, which is scary.
She wants to be him. She mimics certain actions he carries out throughout the film. Very intimidating villain. Almost like Roy without the empathy. She is Roy. She is incredibly strong, incredibly smart, and very cunning, but she does not have the empathy that Roy would share with Deckard.
That's such a good point. I never put those two together, but yeah, that is a really good point. If you ever listen to Tears in the Rain,
Tears in the Rain,
you'll know exactly why Roy is maybe considered one of the best on-screen villain characters of all time. I still always cry when I hear that Vangelis score, and then I hear his monologue. I mean, I think there's a Snapchat of me crying.
I've seen things you people would not believe. I quote this quote all the time. I'll spare you the details, but
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears in rain.
But this girl does not have any of those memorable quotes, unfortunately.
Well, not like that. I mean, Rutger Hauer actually did write that monologue with Ridley's approval. But I wouldn't say anything like that. She does have some good lines in the film, but nothing as iconic. I mean...
Right, to call back to like Resident Evil, she feels like Salazar's like bodyguards, you know.
The big cheese,
yeah.
or
no, like a little Salazar, the little guy.
Oh, I mean, yes, yeah.
Like one of those right hand monsters. That's like because she's always
this isn't like one of your Hollywood movies.
Yeah, like she's always in like the background on his right hand side, you know, doing things for him. And then the way she communicates with Kay throughout the movie, you can tell she looks down on him.
She thinks he is beneath her. She doesn't even like give him the benefit of killing him early on, which she easily could have done. And Kay becomes a force to be reckoned with because he finds a cause for him to live for, which is really good.
Right, and let's just talk about that now, because Harrison Ford's in this movie, and what we find out is that him and Rachel, we'll put a timestamp for any spoilers after this point now, but him and Rachel from the first film have a child, and it is a, how would you call that, their child? What would you call that?
I mean, many people in the film call it a miracle.
A miracle yes.
birth.
Because one of them is a replicant. I mean, we don't know who's the replicant.
Deckard could be a replicant. He could not be. I think the sequel does a good job of saying maybe.
Yeah.
I know Ridley has gone off record saying, or on record, that
he says in commentaries.
Yeah, that Deckard is a replicant.
Which is a big mystery in the first movie.
Right. It is a big mystery. It is never solid. I mean, you could connect that the unicorn being in Deckard's dream and then being left behind as an imprinted memory, obviously his partner knowing that this memory was inside his head, automatically says he's a replicant. Totally cool.
Which is a big theme of just the series in general.
Right.
Because the book is called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And when you take that quote and you place it into replicants getting implanted memories, it fits. Do androids dream of electric sheep? They could if somebody had put those in there. And replicant... And the replicant, if Deckard was true, would have the unicorn memories if they were imprinted in his memory.
Right.
And you see that theme revisited in 2049 with Kay. Because Kay finds out that they're on the brink of a war, the humans and the replicants, because of this miracle baby that Deckard and Rachel had. Wallace finds out about it and wants it because it's the key to the puzzle to creating his perfect replicant life. Meanwhile,
we live behind a wall.
That's right. There's a wall. It's like Attack on Titan. We live between a wall between the Titans.
We live on a wall. Okay, this could break the world.
That's right. There's so many movie references. Okay,
Robin Wright. Dang it, she's so good.
Have you ever noticed like how many times that Blade Runner has influenced other mediums of sorts? Like
so many.
Cowboy Bebop, just like is one of them. Attack on Titan, you could just say just right now. It's just like there's so many different. Alita, Battle Angel.
Alita.
Like I mean,
really underrated, by the way. Really underrated.
Yes.
I want to see Edward Norton as that villain. Okay.
But it just Blade Runner just influences so many different types of mediums, and I love it.
There is a Blade Runner anime coming out relatively soon by the the creative director is the man who directed Cowboy Bebop.
Nice.
Then the director is the director of Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, which was already greatly inspired by Blade Runner.
Wow.
Very excited for the anime. A little disappointed it's going to be 3D animation,
Not
but
crazy.
The talent behind it is just incredible.
Boy,
And I'm a big fan of anime as well, so I'm excited.
But what happened to that hand-drawn anime?
They said, I mean, they're going to put a lot of work into it, but they said that 3D will help them achieve their vision with the budget they have.
Here
So
at
we'll
Inside
see.
the Sequel,
We'll
we
see.
late late '90s hand-drawn anime. That
Yeah, we
doesn't get
do.
better than that. Actually, I mean, one sequel I'd love to do, Seth, is a Cooler's Revenge. In Return of
I would be
Cooler.
game for that.
That underrated DBZ movie. Anyway, so we talk about Blade Runner 2049, and we're getting into the spoilers now. But Agent K thinks our Officer K thinks he is special because he thinks he might be the golden child, the miracle baby. Because the evidence he's discovering with the memories he's receiving, he thinks this might be him because evidence is pointing towards it.
All evidence. I mean, he has another character directly tell him that this memory is the truth.
That's right, exactly. But that one character might not be honest, and we'll stop it there in terms of spoilers because you need to watch it to realize it.
You need to watch it multiple times. Thank you.
Exactly. But the big thing I want to talk about is the disparagement between Wallace's sidekick, bodyguard, and Officer K. They end up fighting in trying to save Deckert's life because Deckert is being transported to be killed. K wants to save him because K knows that Deckert's life matters more than even his own existence. And you can't help but feel like this is two sides of like the argument here. You have the type of replicants that are feeling more human than human, like K, versus the God complex replicants who realize they're more superior and exploiting that superiority. Because K has realized that the older replicants that he had previously been retiring are planning to revolt to feel not even overtake human life, but to just be assimilated to human life.
They want to be equal. I mean, if it involves a war, a massacre, they're willing to do it. Which I think K doesn't really want to be a part of. I think he just wants to matter. Necessarily, he doesn't want to kill anymore. He never wanted to kill, but he wants to matter. So this war, once again, I won't get into big spoilers, but he wants to be a part of it, but he also doesn't want to be a part of it.
I think when you get any sort of in this movie, it's all about repression. Or oppression, the AI oppression, the replicant oppression, the poor people oppression. They're all wanting to just be on level playing ground in our sense. Replicants just want to be humans, but they don't have souls. And there's some humans throughout this entire series that treat them as if they are human, and some treat them as lesser human.
They treat them worse than they would treat a dog.
Right. I mean, remember in the police station Interlinked where the...
Are you seeing Cells Interlinked?
Cells Interlinked.
It's been a while. I've been drinking anyways.
Where a human just pushes Officer K, like for no reason.
Right. Also his complex that he's living in, very low income, high-rise apartments. People are calling him skin job. They're throwing insults at him. They're like brushing up against him. Like it's... Everywhere is unsafe for him.
And he has the same blank face the entire time. It's so sad. Ryan Gosling, I want to give him a hug the whole
You just
movie.
want to give him a hug. This voice.
Right, but obviously if you're listening to this whole thing, you know that this movie has a lot of things going on. And I wish at the time I watched it, I realized these things. It didn't happen until the second watch where I had the appreciation for the movie. And then the third watch where I was like, I was so dumb back then. That was only 3 years ago. Time can heal. It can change your mind on things.
Let it be known that Daniel, the host of Cobwebs, also really great film fan, film aficionado, more than I am. I don't know if he likes the film. I think he likes it now, but I know I had a very long conversation over the phone with Cris and Daniel about this film. I think it was well over an hour, and I was pleading my case for why this is a great movie. I don't know if I completely got through that night, but I know I got through eventually for Cris, which is cool. You can totally have any opinion you want. It's just something I was so passionate about. So I was like, here's my case. Here it is. It's out there. If you like it, awesome, But if you don't, well, I wish you did, but yeah.
Do you ever watch a movie and you refuse to like it because it's not what you wanted? That's how I felt, because I kept thinking there's some plot holes in here where I kept comparing it to the first movie, and I'm like, it doesn't do this like the first movie. It doesn't do this like the first movie. Why did they do this? I don't get why I couldn't just do this. And I'm just rewatching it again, and then twice, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. It didn't do these things that I wanted to do because it still accomplishes what a sequel should do. Is it expands the universe, it introduces new refreshing themes and characters while also paying respect to the original. It does all of those things. It takes time to. I feel like I don't love the movie. I like it so much though. Like I'm on the crisp of loving it. You know what I mean? Like it's a 4.5 star. You know what I mean for me right now. It used to be at a 3 or 3.5.
I mean, I think a 4.5 does mean love, right? Maybe a 4.
Well, yeah, I guess. And when it comes to ratings, star ratings, who fucking cares? But like I couldn't put it in like I couldn't say like a top 10 all timer ever. For me.
Right.
But when it comes to top 10 sci-fi movies, it might be a top 5 for sure now.
Sure.
It would I would say at the time of after watching it, it's not a top 10.
Do you like it more than the original?
See, that's what I tackle.
I mean, I would understand if you do. I mean, they're different.
See, the more I'm conflicted because when you watch these movies, so they're dystopian sci-fi movies, and that again, that's why you and I we gel so well when it comes to watching movies together. Is we both love that genre so much.
Right.
I mean, as a kid, I just love space and monsters and aliens.
I love dirty space.
See, to me,
I love the original Star Wars because they're kind of dirty.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I love Blade Runner. I love like anime inspired by that.
Right.
Firefly, very great limited short series in Serenity. The film coupled with it. I mean, I love dirty sci-fi. I do like Star Trek. I wouldn't say I'm a Star Trek fan. I think it's too clean. I know the approach is very much about politics, and it's very positive, and it wants to create this equality among species. There's a lot that Star Trek says, but I never felt like I wanted to live in that world because it's so, which is stupid because it's a much better world to live in.
To me,
but it's so clean.
Sci-fi has always been, I think, about questioning the most uncomfortable things by putting it in a setting that it's not natural.
I want to feel uncomfortable.
Right, and I feel like, I mean, Alien, Terminator, these
Right.
sci-fi movies that are scary and dark and brooding, I love so much. But the more I think about Blade Runner, which I've seen 2 or 3 times now, and now watching the third time Blade Runner 2049, I liked almost 2049 a little bit more because it is pure bona fide sci-fi. And it's so apathetic, but also comforting in a way. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, like, there's a scene in this movie where Agent K, or I can't get out of Men in Black for no reason.
It's Officer K, I believe. You call him K.
But K. So there's a scene where K has just dissected that his life doesn't fucking matter. Jeez, no big deal, right? Even though he just really thought he was about to be the fucking key to this puzzle to save the universe. And he realizes he's not. So he's walking by himself, kicking a can, and his controller that had Ana de Armas's character, who's the only character throughout that Seth points out, the only character that truly cared about him.
Maybe. I mean, we don't know if she truly did, but it felt like she did.
It really did. It really did feel, because even like when he was about to like die, when he got shot down on a planet.
So spoilers, right?
Yeah. Well, she like kicks and like tries to wake him up. I don't know.
Well, her last words are "I love you."
Yeah. Like I don't think an AI would do that. But either way, he's walking back and he sees a big holographic image of Ana de Armas's character
in a very
sexual,
debaucherous, sexual, preying on lonely men kind of way,
and is like luring him to keep her, like to buy her product basically. And he just looks up at it all sad and says, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna save the universe in some way.
Well, he kind of realizes this one thing that made me feel complete might have been a lie, just like the thing that him being the key to this universe was also a lie. So everything up to this point has been a lie. He has nothing.
What about that owl?
Less than nothing. Synthetic.
Right.
It must be expensive. Very.
Right. Maybe that could be Kay's like owl for Decker, you know? It was like this AI. Maybe it was the owl, the synthetic owl for him.
I mean, the owl was it was a talking point for... I think the dog's the owl. But it's a talking point to connect these two characters.
Right. Here's one interesting point I want to bring out to you, Seth, before we even talk about more just dystopian sci-fi, which I love to talk about more. With Blade Runner 2049, what I found interesting in comparison to Blade Runner is the stark difference of the leads. So Blade Runner in 82, Harrison Ford, the predominant what a male should
takes
be
place
at the
in
time.
2019 though.
Right, yeah. Which none of the boys I know were in 2019 were like
this should have been.
Right. But I'm like this strong, gritty man, this huge masculine character, Deckard. Doesn't give a shit about anything, hard-nosed, doesn't care about just getting the job done.
He doesn't even want to be a Blade Runner. He's
Right.
just, no, I'm not returning for this job.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he's pushed to return into the job, but he doesn't want to do it.
Right.
He's done. He is He's at the bottom of the bottom.
Exactly. But then you get, in 2017, your protagonist being a more in tune emotionally Ryan Gosling, who's looking for a purpose in a not so masculine way. Is it interesting that these are our protagonists?
You could say that Deckard at the beginning of the film is similar to Kay towards the end of 2049.
Oh yeah, when
and
he's looking at
they kind of cross paths.
Yeah, when he
really
looks at Roy, you do feel like that could be Ryan Gosling looking at Roy.
Well, right, because I mean, I feel like Deckard finds a purpose at the end of Blade Runner that he never had, because his purpose is Rachel. His purpose is to get the hell out of here and finally make something of himself. Kay comes to a crossroads where, because in the beginning he wants to feel something, he wants to be something, whereas Deckard doesn't care at all. And he
even in this movie, Deckard doesn't care as much.
I mean, because he's had to give up everything. He had a really good, I believe, 3 years.
Yeah.
A really good 3 years. After that, everything went to shit. But he had a really good 3 years. Because as in the first film, the replicants have a limited lifespan of 4 years, which is the central plot of Roy wanting to survive past his expiration date.
True.
I won't get into that, but
sad.
I would say these characters definitely come to a crossroads at the midpoint of these films, or towards the end of these films. But Kay does have a very heavy, but happy, sad ending, I would say. I
feel like when he's dying and you hear the Tears in the Rain score playing,
right.
I feel like that is Denny saying, hey, this is how enlightened Kay feels. The same way Deckard felt when listening to that Roy monologue.
I mean, Deckard felt enlightened because he finally felt sympathy for these replicants.
He felt sadness. And I think that's how Kay feels at the end of the movie, is he's at peace for what he's done to help. But I also feel like he's sad that he can't continue on with it. Right.
I mean, I think what's interesting is Roy saved Deckard's life at the end of the first film. He spared him. He enlightened him with his peace as he died. I think Kay also saved Deckard again. He gave him a new meaning for life. I don't know if I could spoil it. I mean, he basically gave him a new lease on life, revealing something that he really needs. Because Deckard was a sad, angry man, just like the beginning of the first film. And he finally finds his peace again. So I think replicants in this franchise show their humanity by telling humans there's another reason to move on, to keep living.
Right, where a human would be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna...
Humans are more out for themselves,
Right.
and these replicants are like trying to do something
Right,
about this.
exactly. I wish we were replicant cells interlinked.
Replicants are more human than human, cells interlinked.
Oh, God. But the one thing I did want to point out by bringing that comparison, not only from a story standpoint, but just like where we're at in time in sci-fi, Ryan Gosling's type of character for a protagonist is looked upon as a protagonist, leading man in this kind of universe, versus back then, what kind of leading man you would need. It shows you don't have to be like a gritty Harrison Ford type.
You got to be handsome.
you do have to be freaking
You got to be handsome.
I kept thinking of it, like, how come everyone looks better looking than me in this movie?
Because you got to be handsome.
They're also even Batista looks better than me.
Replicants, you might as well make them handsome.
Right? But man, this movie is really great, and I love how deep this movie kind of really is. Like, it really is deep when you dissect everything about it.
And there's so many plot threads that I know some people would say are not resolved, which I would say isn't necessarily the truth. Like, there's an uprising that isn't resolved, but I think that uprising is a purpose for Kay to feel like he has to do something, and through that doing something, he betrays that purpose to give another character a new lease on life. Because he cares more about, I will say, Deckard finding peace and happiness than you would about these people that want to feel something too.
And I think it's because he feels like he's connected like Kay.
Right.
Or Deckard, excuse me.
Kay isn't an angry person. All these other replicants are very angry because they're oppressed. I think Kay is the opposite of angry. He's just someone that wants to feel something. And if he can give Deckard a new lease on life, then he's willing to do that.
Right. I think it's because he feels like he's related to Deckard in a way. Because of the
He
experiences.
does think he is.
He really does think he is. And I think that kind of helps in doing that. But yeah, this movie is really great. And I think people need to really give it a second chance, or should just watch it if they were like, I love Blade Runner, I don't want to ruin Blade Runner for myself. If you feel like this movie ruins Blade Runner for you, I feel like you don't like Blade Runner as much, maybe.
I mean, if you do hate it and you love the first one, I would say give it another chance. They are very different movies, but I think the themes are really carried on in 2049 in a good way. I mean, they're very much atmospheric in different ways.
Oh, yeah.
Ridley and Denny have different visions, but I just love how they intersect, like we've mentioned earlier. They're directors I love immensely.
It's interesting that Denny's like sci-fi with Arrival and then this, and who knows with Dune. I feel like he's
gonna
more
be so good. It's gonna be good. I think the castings are perfect. I love Timothy. I love him. I love Rebecca Ferguson. I love everyone involved.
It looks amazing. That trailer's a freaking phenomenal.
Oh man.
But I think like Denny's approach to sci-fi is the sad, sacrificial for the betterment of the future.
He's not a very happy director.
No, he's not
a very happy director. His films are very melancholy.
Right, like Arrival at the end. I'm gonna spoil Arrival because you should have seen it maybe by now.
I mean,
it's
really melancholy.
We won't spoil it, but basically we find out that somebody has to sacrifice something for the betterment of everything else. We'll just say that.
Which is kind of, it's similar to 2049.
Yeah, and Blade Runner's like this. Yeah, but what I've noticed with Ridley Scott is he's always trying to answer the question to life. He's always trying to question what's our purpose in life. And when he asked that in Blade Runner, what makes us human, in Martian, like he's asking like how do humans cope with being alone? And Exodus Gods and Kings, he's asking, it's in a poor, really bad way. He's kind of asking, like...
It was palpable. I didn't hate watching it. I'm just never going to watch it ever again.
Right. He's asking, how could humans back then be so devoted to some unknown, you know? And then, even better, in Alien Covenant Prometheus, he's asking, essentially, humans, like, where did we come from? And, like, where are we going?
And in The Counselor, he asks... I haven't seen The Counselor.
And then in All the Money in the World, he's asking, how does money fit into us
That's a good movie.
Yeah, it's good. It's a really fun time.
Did you like Covenant?
I love Covenant now.
I liked it in theaters a lot, and then I started analyzing it, and I liked it less. But I really want to watch it again.
You should rewatch.
I liked it a lot less.
So to me, Prometheus and Alien Covenant, it's like...
I like Prometheus.
Yeah, it's like Ridley Scott asking these questions, and they're really profound. But to me, if you focus on David the entire time...
David's great. I have no problem with David.
It's so interesting with David's character.
Don't let the bed bugs bite.
That's right. The trick, Mr. Potter, is not minding that it hurts. Anyway, I love those two movies now. I think I like Blade Runner 2049 just a little bit more.
Because Ryan Gosling.
I love Ryan Gosling. But too, I love movies. That's why I love dystopian sci-fi. I love the questions that are asked at the time. They're very deep and maybe sometimes uncomfortable, and you want to watch it by yourself so you can like think about those things. But at the same time, it's a gorgeous movie, and I love the properties that I love Blade Runner, too. So it's like I don't mind watching it. So Alien I love just because I love the alien and I love the Ridley Scottness of being it, But yeah, this movie's really good, and I really recommend people should check it out. Man, do you have anything else to say other than how Blade Runner is so influential that it had a sequel and then influenced some of our favorite anime?
It's a perfect movie. I did have a random thought. What do you think there's a Rachel in 2049? Like the dynamic of this character that pushes the protagonist to kind of be what they are. Because I would say Joy might be the Rachel, but I don't think she's the Rachel. I think Rachel is a fantastic character in the original film that doesn't necessarily want to be with Deckard at all until she does. I mean, 2049 touches on that there is like a fated union, potentially. That's right. But it's a very gritty relationship that is kind of dirty. You're not really sure if you like it or not until the end, where there's the scene where she's lets down her hair, she's playing the piano, she's a little happy. She's never happy until she's finally like kind of free with Deckard, and they run away together. I don't know. Do you feel like there's that character in 2049? Because I really love Rachel as a character.
I love Rachel the first movie because she's like such a yin to yang to Harrison Ford's character.
She's very structured. She's very sophisticated. And Deckard is just...
And she loves to toy with him.
She loves to toy with him.
And he knows that.
Because the very first meeting, they're flirting. They're just flirting.
Right. And even they replicate points out that she's trying to fluster him.
Right.
Not frustrate, but fluster, which means she's flirting with him. In this one, I don't feel there's a Rachel character, and I feel like Denny does that on a purpose because he's like, that's what makes Deckard and Rachel so special, is there's no sort of relationship like that again.
Deckard found happiness. Kay didn't find... Because, I mean, Deckard looks down on replicants in the beginning, and I think... I mean, there's the controversial scene where he kind of throws himself on her. Because I think he really does like her, potentially love her, but at the same time, he's not sure if she's beneath him or if she's equal to him. By the end of it, she's equal to him.
I've always felt Deckard was afraid to question who he is. You know what I mean?
He's not sure if he wanted to love her.
Right. I feel like the cause is bigger than himself, and he just doesn't want to be a part of it. Because even though he made a pact with these replicants to help him with this special bond, he doesn't feel... I don't feel like he's... I don't know. I want to say he seems a little suspect. Like he'll drop allegiance and a drop of a hat for himself. I don't know if that's just Harrison Ford, but I feel like that's how Deckard would be, because I never see Deckard as a hero. I never see Deckard. Yeah, I don't feel like Deckard's some sort of savior at all, and I don't think the movie tries to do that.
Oh, Deckard doesn't give a shit.
Right. But I think the closest thing, like you say, Joy to Rachel, but I think Joy stands for something of another question of like, so we question whether replicants are human or not. What about AI if we take it another step forward? Where does AI play into this? It can't just be this repressed ones and zeros.
I mean, like I kind of said earlier, you don't really have a solid answer. I think replicants absolutely should have equality. I mean, we really do care about them. Joy, by the end of the film, there's this repetition of her naming Kay Joe. And you think, oh, this means something. She wants him to have a name. She cares about him. She wants him to have a purpose. And then when he's down in the dumps, like you said, kicking the can, hates his existence, he sees this hologram of another Joy that, as an advertisement, she's naked, she's alluring to him, and she calls him Joe, which means she's just a carbon copy of the Joy he had previously known. So does she matter? Maybe not. She made him feel like he mattered, which Rachel kind of made Deckard feel like he matters. But at the end of it was Rachel and Deckard were successful, where Kay and Joy were not successful. Because, I mean, does she matter? She's ones and zeros.
Dude, is she the owl? Is she real?
She's synthetic. Well, as she said, there's a scene with Kay investigating, and they say he is 4 lines of code as a replicant, and she says she's only 2 lines of code. So are those 2 lines, is that the barrier of having like empathy or a soul? Is ones and zeros or everything else, does it matter? I don't know. That's for you to decide.
Dude, this is 29 years from now. We need to figure this shit out. I don't know. Do you think... Okay, real question though. Did you watch Cowboy Bebop and like Ghost in the Shell before Blade Runner, or did you discover them after? Because like to me, when I think Blade Runner, I think about those 2 things because they're so similar, and I don't know if I don't think that's by mistake at all.
I think that's a good question. I think I watched Bebop. I watched that in college, and I really loved it. I watched Ghost in the Shell, the film, around the same time, and I watched Standalone Complex a bit further, probably a couple years after that. And I really love all those properties, not as much as Blade Runner, but yeah, I would say Blade Runner really pioneered my love for the genre.
Yeah, I'm the same because I watched Blade Runner first, and then I watched... Excuse me. And well, I don't know, because I saw Bebop a few times on Adult Swim growing up, but I never like stuck them to memory as much, other than like I knew who Spike Spiegel was,
Coolest guy in the world.
Exactly.
Galaxy.
Exactly. But like I never like was like, oh, I know exactly what Cowboy Bebop is.
Right.
I watched 1 or 2 episodes.
It's very episodic, anyways.
Right. So like I watched a few, and I was like, okay, Spike is super cool.
He's Bruce Lee.
That's it.
He's
that's
like
it.
Bruce
And
Lee.
that's it. But then it's like, I watched Blade Runner. I love Blade Runner. And then I watched Ghost in the Shell with Daniel on a double feature night where we watched that and Princess Mononoke. And I still think Ghost in the Shell is my favorite anime. And I think it's because it's like...
You meant to say Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, sorry.
Well, that's a show, not a movie.
I'm kidding.
But like, I'm like, Ghost in the Shell, I'm like, divine intervention.
It's fantastic.
I think
Akira in the same vein.
Yeah, Akira I don't love as much because I feel like the message is a little skewed in the third act in a way.
A little bit. It goes to crazy lengths for sure.
But I think Ghost in the Shell is more refined, and I just love it's dystopian heaven. It's like
right.
Major is like one of the best female protagonists ever, and she's not even human. You know what I mean?
Well, she is kind of human.
She's modified human.
Right.
But I love the questions it asks, with the ghost in the shell, the brain, and the symbiotic human body. But either way, but that all comes from the love of Blade Runner. And that's why I love Blade Runner. Because
would it exist without Blade Runner?
Exactly. And then when I got into college, with Daniel, and I watched Cowboy Bebop, and I'm like, I love Bebop so much. But it's not because of the sci-fi-ness, but it's because of the world building that Blade Runner gave.
I mean, would any of these exist without Philip K. Dick? Because he did so many sci-fi properties.
Oh.
I mean, he is...
Goddamn.
He's just a genius,
He's
honestly.
flexing that mind.
I mean, that's the author of the novel.
But, dude, do you really think that androids would dream of electric sheep?
I think they would. I think they would dream of normal sheep.
Dude, but that's the thing. That's why I love this podcast with Inside the Sequel when we talk about sequel movies. Sometimes sequels could give original work a run for its money.
Right.
I think Blade Runner 2049 would give Blade Runner a run for its money. And I don't know if I can say on any given day which one I love more. Because it could change at any second.
Sure. I mean, I think they're both fantastic.
Right.
I like one more than the other, but they're both fantastic.
Right. And it's like, I mean, how many times when people talk about sequels and they're like, oh, this one surpasses the original. You don't see that very rarely. Blade Runner 2049 should be in that conversation with the Scream 2s and the...
So good. I love Scream.
Yeah. In the Empire Strikes Backs of the world.
I'm going to throw it in there. Last Jedi. Let's do it.
The Last Jedi you could throw in there. Exactly. 100%.
We were talking about how you want a film to be a certain way, and it's not. I will say Last Jedi is like that. You want it to be a certain way. It's not.
Exactly.
At all.
I think a sequel but I think it elevates itself to the same level as the original when it's different.
It is. It's very different.
And I think Wes Craven kind of answered that with Scream 2. It's so on the nose of how sequels are. It does what a sequel is different.
I mean, those are meta films, which I love meta horror
and that's why
as a genre.
I love Scream 2. Scream 3 that's a trilogy. It's very rare where that trilogy is pretty... Even the fourth movie...
I like all of them.
Yeah, they're pretty strong. But like with Scream 2, I love the red herring. That's such a theme in this episode. Is like Scream 2 is red herring so many tropes of sequels that Wes Craven pulls something out of this hat that's different than what you see it as.
Right.
And I feel like that's how you do a sequel. If you do something a little different, but still somewhat related to the original, it's gonna work. And it's not gonna be loved at first. I don't know so many people who love Scream 2 as much as the original. I do.
I mean, I love it.
But I love that series.
I don't know if I love it more than the original, but I really love it.
Right. But I mean, yeah, like you said, Last Jedi. I mean, when I kill you, I've killed the last Jedi.
I've killed the last Jedi.
Luke.
I think Luke is fantastic. I love the criticism of the Jedi Order. I think the Jedi Order is an abomination. I think the prequels show that the Jedi Order is a corrupt government agency. I'm not even gonna talk about it more because that's for a different episode. I mean,
dude, think about the potential of this podcast with all these talks right now. But my biggest one is, what about Two Towers with Fellowship of the Ring? God damn.
I mean, we love Lord of the Rings are all great films, so that's fine.
Right. But I'm just like, man, that's how you do a sequel. It's like Blade Runner 2049. I finally have seen the light, and like, it's not what I had wanted, and that is fine because what it presents, I love. And that's what it's pondering question. It relates to everyone. If you're a human, you're gonna watch this movie and think about these things in some sort of different capacity.
I hope you do.
Right. Like, that's the goal, and I think it's great.
I think empathy is a very important thing to dissect in cinema or even media, like we mentioned, like The Last of Us or this film.
Dude, sequels are getting hate these days now.
They're getting so much hate because I think people drive nostalgia into the ground because they want something to be the same. Like we said, I don't want a sequel that's the same. I really don't. I want a sequel that challenges the first one. I want to see something new. And nostalgia is a very dangerous thing because we want our childhoods to be alive again, and there's nothing is going to be our childhoods because that's like rose tinted glasses, perfect childhood.
I think that's interesting with Blade Runner 2049. Deckard doesn't show up to more than halfway through the movie.
Deckard's not in the movie that much.
No,
and I think we know his presence is felt though.
Yes,
him and Rachel, you feel the presence.
And I can't help but feel that's why Denny put him in the movie, not because of the nostalgia of like Harrison Ford's going to sell this movie more because the original people love Blade Runner.
Well, he's on the poster with Ryan Gosling.
Right,
you think he's a main character,
but he's like in it for less than half the movie.
I mean, screen time wise, he's probably in it for 20 minutes.
Right, and he's not doing that much.
I mean, he's almost a damsel in distress.
Exactly.
Almost, which is, I mean, he's an old man. I love him, but if you really think about it, Roy could have killed him very easily in the first film.
Well,
I mean, Kay could easily kill him. Love, which is the bodyguard, could easily kill him.
Wallace could have killed him.
Wallace could have killed him. Like, he's he's a very badass, gruff man, but he's also an old man, and you have to remember that. And I love Deckard as a character, but in this situation, he is not the protagonist. Nope. He is not.
It's like, man, if people watched Blade Runner 2049 and liked it, then they should just play Last of Us 2 and they'll love it.
I love Last of Us 2, but man, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this episode. I said I like The Last Jedi and Last of Us 2.
Dude, those are sequels we all like, though.
I think all those sequels, I mean, maybe not The Last Jedi, but they involve empathy. I think empathy, I think people are not willing to challenge themselves to understand different points of view, especially The Last of Us 2. But I think I love challenging myself as far as like, should I feel this for someone? I think Roy is one of the best characters of all time to realize empathy. Because he kills people. He kills his father, Tyrell.
Yep.
He gouges them in the eyes.
Yep.
I mean, it's a very violent massacre. But you really understand him. And I cry for him at the end of the movie. I love him.
Because he can't fight this thing. It's inevitable.
He just doesn't want to die. He's only 4 years old. He is a kid. And he is scared to die. And that's why he's like, he wants to live. And you feel so sad for him. You understand him. And he loves. I mean, he loves and he understands everyone. He doesn't even want to kill Deckard, and Deckard's sole purpose is to kill him. He doesn't even want to kill him.
Right, and he probably has experienced more human things than most humans in that world did. Yes. And that's what he talks about in his monologue. Yeah. So, I mean, this is why I love the genre to death. That's why Alien's my favorite movie. It's a different type of sci-fi, but it's still there where the future is scary, and like seeing how in different interpretations of what we're leading towards could possibly happen is interesting to me. So that's why I love sci-fi. And with Blade Runner, I think I like 2049 maybe just a little bit more because it's true sci-fi. In terms of like its world building, it's questioning.
The original is more of a noir. I mean, I will say it's a sci-fi film. Absolutely, it pioneered a lot, but it's a neo noir.
And that's my problem with. I'm not crazy about noir films as much yet. I think I need to get a little bit older.
Neo noir, my man.
Neo noir is where it's at.
You can say Cowboy Bebop's in neo noir.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop. This Blade Runner 2049. You watch some of those pure Melville films. Those are neo noir films where they feel like old school noirs, but they have a twist to it. I like that. It's hard for me as a less super cool noir protagonist, I guess, to relate to those hard gritting, Robert Mitchum noir film out of the past types.
And I need to educate myself more on traditional noir. Right. I always wanted to.
I don't feel like I can identify as much as those kind of characters, but I can identify myself as someone who's pondering what my life's meaning is like, as someone who's like a Ryan Gosling type character. But yeah, that's why, I mean, this movie, I think, accomplishes what a sci-fi is trying to be like, is answering so many questions. And if it doesn't have an answer, that's for you to decide, because you're going to have to live it at some point maybe in your life.
I think if sci-fi doesn't challenge your beliefs, maybe not like existential, religious, but if it doesn't challenge what it means to be a human or an android or anything, I don't think it's really true sci-fi. I think sci-fi is a genre that is meant to have you question something.
Yeah.
I think if it's just, I'm totally down with like monster slaying and aliens in outer space, but I think true sci-fi really should challenge you. I was thinking of Starship Troopers for some reason. That is a film. I've never seen that. You haven't seen it?
No.
Oh, it's really good. Okay. It's a film that on the surface is about a bunch of really attractive meatheads and beautiful people destroying aliens on the surface. But under the surface, it is a political commentary. It's a farce. It is challenging politics, and it's deeper than you expect. So like sci-fi is just, I think there should be commentary there.
Right.
Honestly.
I think in today's society, we make films about past events that criticize current events. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
So like movies that had. So I love old screwball comedies. You watch His Girl Friday, when you watch, like a lot of Billy Wilder movies at the time, they kind of criticize what was happening at the time, and they can be related to today as well. They stand the test of time.
Right.
So like, I'm trying to think, Spotlight, like it's an older
great
movie.
Yeah, great.
It's an old movie that talks about current probably topical things. I like those things. But I really don't think I really don't think they have the freedom that like a sci-fi film has to do those things. Like you think Godzilla in '54 is a sci-fi movie. I still think it's a sci-fi movie. It's a monster movie, but it's a monster movie.
It's sci-fi.
Yeah, it's a Cold War movie that's trying to answer and question really hard questions at the time. Because less than 10 years earlier, what was going on is related to the horrors. And then you get other Godzilla movies. And I hate to talk about Godzilla on this podcast, which I know I don't. I love to talk about Godzilla on this podcast.
Do you have like 7 figures?
Right, but it's like... But it's like, come on, man. It's like these things, like Godzilla vs. Hedorah is talking about pollution at the time in like the 1960s. And it's like, that's a big deal at the time. I don't think a normal movie can make a movie about pollution.
I'm going to quote a Mad Men episode right now. So in a great series, John Hamm is a freaking rock star.
A show about the past.
About the past.
Topical things.
So there's a short scene. They don't make a big deal out of it, nothing. There's a short scene where the family is at a park and they're having a picnic. They're done with the picnic. He takes the blanket and just like shakes everything off, throws his bottles in the yard. Like it's a public park. He takes all his wrappers, throws them in the grass. Like his kids are throwing all the trash on the yard and they leave. But they don't think anything of it because like you said, at that time, no one cared about the environment. Mm-hmm. It's the 60s. Everyone's smoking inside and everyone's throwing trash in the yards and in public property. But when we see it in 2020 or 2015, whenever you're watching it, you're disgusted by that. You're like, that is terrible. But they don't know anything better, really.
Right. I think it's kind of weird that movies go back in older times to answer questions that are relevant today because it's like, okay, why don't we just blame those things at the time? But in sci-fi movies, you can look at the future and then blame ourselves.
It's timeless.
Exactly.
Because obviously the first one takes place in 2019, which is now the past. Mm-hmm. But that is an alternate reality where this is the future. It's like Star Wars.
Exactly.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Right.
It's an alternate reality that parallels our reality.
Exactly. And that's why sci-fi is the best genre.
It is the best genre, okay?
Yes.
It is
to me,
the best genre.
The big three, it's always going to be, it has to be sci-fi, then it has to be horror, and then after that it has to be fantasy.
And coming of age.
And then coming of age.
I love coming of age films.
Lord of the Rings is a coming of age movie in Fellowship because Frodo gets a call to grow up.
I will stand by the fact that I think Fellowship is the best Lord of the Rings film. Elijah Wood agrees, okay?
Dang.
It is a very complete film as
it's
far
like
as the
he was
goes.
barely in the Two Towers to even watch them.
Yeah, Elijah's pissed. He's like, Fellowship's the best film.
He's like, I wasn't even Two Towers that much, so I don't like the movie.
Okay, but they're all, I love them all.
Yeah, they are perfect movies. But yes, Seth, it was so fun to talk to you about the meaning of life, why Blade Runner 2049, after 3 years of its release, still needs to be watched and appreciated. I was one of those stupid sheep that was like, this movie fucking sucks. But at the time, to be fair, it was 2017. True. Lady Bird and Get Out was
also fantastic films. Also fantastic. I mean, that was a good year for cinema.
2017,
I've
said it on record before, 2017 is the best year in film in maybe the last 20 years.
And 2020 is one of the shittiest years for film.
That's so true. No, 2018 was the worst year for film.
Okay, 2018 was pretty hollow.
Green Book won.
I mean, 2020. I mean, I think Tenet's a 7 out of 10, but I really freaking enjoyed watching it.
I do love Tenet. That's true.
I could say it's an 8 out of 10 by rewatching it and having fun. I think it's one of the only Nolan films that I think Nolan's having fun with.
Hey, speaking of sequels, Tenet might be getting a sequel.
I did not hear that. Really?
John David Washington said he wants a sequel bad.
I don't know if that film warrants a sequel.
I just want more John David Washington.
I love John David Washington, but you know what? Robert Pattinson is a rock star in the movie, too.
Oh, dude, he might as well just get the Best Supporting Actor award now.
I mean, there's only like 7 films out.
Right?
So.
Dude, what's your favorite movie of 2020? I remember you telling me it was an anime.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Weathering with You.
Oh, no, that's technically 2019, right?
Oh, was it 2019?
Yeah. Because I mean, I have the Steelbook Blu-ray release right now.
Oh, we saw it in 2020 though.
Right. It's a 2019 domestic release for Japan. If you consider it 2020, yeah, I would still say that's my favorite film, hands down. Weathering with You, I think, is a masterpiece. I know some people definitely disagree with me.
That's
on
like
that.
My Portrait of a Lady on Fire. It was like the best movie I've seen in 2020, but I think it was technically released in 2019.
Right.
It was also the last movie I saw in theaters. RIP.
Yeah.
No, not Tenet. Never mind.
I mean, a lot of foreign films, the domestic releases don't coincide with the American releases. It's a gray area.
Big true.
For sure.
Big true.
And the Oscars don't like foreign films, so. Let's just talk about that later.
Yeah. Anyway, Seth, thank
Besides
you.
Parasite. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Parasite was amazing.
Parasite's amazing.
But Seth, thank you so much for being on here to just nerd out with me on Blade Runner and sci-fi in general.
I could do it all day,
Yes,
son.
sir. Yes, sir. This boy has a Blade Runner poster, a Army of Darkness, so you know he's a true Evil Dead fan.
Meet Earl and the Dying Girl. Okay, underrated film.
But even bigger, he's got the big three of the last 10 years. He's got Baby Driver, La La Land, and Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. It's his favorite movie.
That's an underrated top three,
That's
maybe.
right. That's right. I'm like, dang, dude. And a Last of Us poster, don't forget.
Mondo limited print. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have a boring Taxi Driver poster.
You got good posters.
No, it's all good. One of these days, I'll show it off in a video. But anyway, Seth, thank you so much for being on this podcast and talking sequels with me. I hope we can talk about more sci-fi or maybe just sequels in general next time.
One more Cells Interlinked for...
dude, I already
for
finished.
our baseline.
That's right, my baseline's way off because I finished.
My baseline
this
is
Natty
way
Light.
off right now. You take a shot of mine.
Dude, this whiskey sour.
Oh, that's sour. All right.
I have to pee. That's sour. Anyway, if you enjoyed this episode, I really recommend you follow us on Twitter at Sequelpodcast or Inside the Sequel Podcast. You should email the show at sequelpod@gmail.com. You can always follow me at hertastic.reviews@gmail.com. That's the YouTube channel, and you can check that out anytime. But anyway, other than that, my name is Cris here. I'm the host of Inside the Sequel Podcast, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I was here with Seth. Seth, say goodbye to everyone because I know they loved you.
Goodbye.
There we go. Anyway, like I said before in many other episodes, if you're not watching dystopian sci-fi, do you really care about sequels? I'll let you answer that. Anyway, we'll see you next time.